She strutted in with a new dress, red, tight, confident, and I swear the air froze. Not because she looked beautiful, but because I could feel something was wrong. You know that moment when someone you love walks in and your gut whispers before your brain can. That's what it was. My wife Emily didn't walk in like a woman coming home from work. She walked in like a woman arriving at a movie premiere, shoulders back, head high, and eyes that wouldn't meet mine. And for the first time in 7 years, she didn't kiss me hello. New dress, I asked, trying to sound casual. Yeah, she said, tossing her purse onto the couch. Just thought I'd treat myself. She didn't even glance at me. She went straight to the mirror in the hallway, checking her hair, spinning slightly, smiling to herself. I just stood there, watching the reflection of a woman I didn't recognize anymore. Things hadn't always been this way. A year ago, we were that couple people envied, late-night talks, movie marathons, the kind who still held hands in the grocery store. We weren't rich, but we were content. We had our little home, our routines, our inside jokes. But lately, she'd been slipping away, late nights at work, business trips that came out of nowhere, and a phone that lived face down, always locked. I didn't want to believe the obvious. I kept telling myself she's just stressed, she's tired. She needs space, but watching her that night, her smiling at herself in the mirror, her phone buzzing twice on the counter, something inside me cracked. I walked to the kitchen, pretending to grab a drink, and I caught a glimpse of the message on her phone as it lit up. Can't stop thinking about last night, you were perfect. My chest went cold, she didn't even flinch when it buzzed. She just turned, grabbed her purse again, and said, I'm meeting some coworkers for drinks. Don't wait up. And before I could even process what I'd just seen, she was gone. That's the moment everything I thought I knew about love about us collapsed. I didn't chase her, didn't yell, didn't call. I just stood there in the quiet, holding my breath like the world had stopped spinning. You hear stories like this online all the time. My wife cheated, my husband left me. But you never think it'll be your name in that story. You never think she's capable of it. I stared at that mirror she just admired herself in. Her reflection was gone now. Just my own standing there, tired eyes, clenched jaw, a man who didn't recognize the person looking back. I should have felt angry, I should have been planning what to do, but all I felt was hollow. Like the love we'd built had quietly died months ago and I'd only just found the body. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with the TV on mute, scrolling through old photos on my phone, vacations, Christmas mornings, lazy Sundays. Every picture felt like a lie now. Her smile looked different. The way she leaned into me, I wondered if she was already thinking of someone else back then. The next morning I tried to confront her. She came home around 8 a.m., smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. Not the one she used to wear anyway. And when I asked her where she'd been, she didn't even try to hide it. Her eyes hardened, she sighed like I was being dramatic. Jason, I think we both know this isn't working anymore. The words hit like a punch to the gut. What are you talking about? I asked. I'm not happy, she said flatly. You've changed. We've both changed. I wanted to scream that she's the one who changed, that I'd been right here the whole time, waiting for her to come back. But when I looked at her, calm, emotionless, already detached, I knew she'd made up her mind long before this conversation. She admitted it eventually, there was someone else. A connection she couldn't ignore, someone who made her feel alive again. I just stood there numb. My hands shook, my throat felt dry, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it echo in my ears. Is it serious? I asked quietly. She hesitated. I don't know, maybe. That maybe broke me more than anything. Because it meant she was willing to throw away 7 years of marriage for something she wasn't even sure about. That night after she left to stay with a friend, I went into our bathroom and stared at that same mirror again. The same one she used to get ready in front of. The same one she'd smiled into just before walking out on me. And I snapped. I grabbed the lipstick she left on the counter, that deep red one she always wore when she wanted attention, and I wrote on the mirror, "Hope he loves you the way I did." Then I stepped back, looked at the words, and realized how pathetic they sounded. Too kind, too soft, too forgiving. So I wiped it off and wrote something else, something colder, something raw, something that would make her feel what I felt. You can't cheat your way to happiness. I stared at it for a long time. The reflection behind the letters looked like a ghost. That was me, a ghost of the man I used to be. When she came home the next evening to grab her things, she strutted in again, same confident walk, same fake composure. But when she saw what I'd written on the mirror, she stopped cold, her hands trembled, her eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. And for the first time since she'd left me, I saw a flicker of guilt. She turned away quickly, pretending to be angry, but her voice cracked when she said, "That was childish, Jason." I didn't respond, I just watched her shoulders shake as she packed her things. She could act tough all she wanted, but she knew. She knew she'd burned something that could never be rebuilt. When the door finally closed behind her, I stood there in silence. No screaming, no crying, just the sound of my own breathing. And in that silence, I realized something brutal. Love doesn't die in explosions. It dies quietly, in distance, in avoidance, in all the little moments when you stop being seen. And she'd stopped seeing me a long time ago. When you love someone long enough, their absence becomes louder than their voice ever was. The first few days after Emily left felt unreal. The house was too quiet. The coffee machine whirred in the morning, but no one stood next to me humming while scrolling her phone. The bed was colder on one side, her scent still lingered on the pillow, faint but cruelly alive, and that lipstick message on the mirror. I couldn't bring myself to wipe it off. It stared back at me every morning. You can't cheat your way to happiness. Some days I hated the words. Other days I clung to them like they were the only thing keeping me from calling her again. The thing about heartbreak is it doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in like water through cracks. First, it's the silence, then the questions, then the self-blame. I replayed every moment leading up to that night, wondering what I'd missed. The nights she said she had meetings, the business trips that didn't quite add up, the phone that never left her side. I kept telling myself maybe I'd pushed her away, maybe I'd stopped listening. Maybe she really did fall out of love with me, but then the truth always crept back in. She chose someone else, and that truth burned like acid. A week passed, then two. I tried to distract myself, went to work, hit the gym, watched movies I didn't care about, but grief has a way of finding you no matter where you run. One night I got drunk and scrolled through her social media. Bad idea. There she was smiling in a restaurant I didn't recognize, with a wine glass in hand and a shadow of a man sitting across from her. His face wasn't clear, but I could tell he was younger, sharper. The kind of guy who probably made her feel adventurous again. His name showed up in the tag once, Ethan, and just like that the stranger had a name. The name started haunting me, Ethan. It rolled around in my head like a song I couldn't turn off. I started noticing every notification on her profile, new photos, tagged locations, even mutual friends liking their posts. It was like watching someone rebuild their life using pieces of yours. She looked happy, or at least she wanted to look happy, but deep down I could tell something was off. Her smile didn't reach her eyes anymore. It was forced, like she was auditioning for a role she didn't believe in. One evening, about a month after she left, I got a text. Emily, hey, I left some mail at the house. Mind if I swing by tomorrow to grab it? My chest tightened. I told her sure, no problem. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept rehearsing what I'd say when she came, calm, collected, detached. But the truth is, part of me still wanted her to walk in, see me, and regret everything. The next day she came by, dressed nice, hair done, perfume that wasn't familiar, but when she looked at me I saw something flicker in her eyes, discomfort, maybe guilt, maybe fear. She grabbed her mail, avoided the mirror this time, and turned to leave. I said quietly, is he worth it? She froze at the door, didn't turn around, just said, goodbye, Jason. And then she left again, no explanation, no closure. Just avoid. That night I hit bottom. I went through our old texts, years of messages, jokes, plans, love notes, her old selfies with captions like lucky to have you. Now she was posting sunsets with captions like new beginnings. It was like she'd deleted me from her story entirely. I remember sitting in the dark, staring at our wedding photo. My reflection overlapped with hers in the glass. She was smiling at me in that photo, genuinely, back when it all felt real. And I whispered, what happened to you? But there was no answer. Weeks turned into months, and slowly the grief began to change shape. It wasn't constant pain anymore. It was dull, heavy sadness, something you carry quietly like a bruise you stop pressing on. I started cooking again, going out, seeing friends. They tried to make me feel better. They said the usual things. She'll regret it someday. You're better off without her. But deep down, I didn't want her to regret it. I wanted her to learn from it, to understand the weight of what she'd done, not just to me, but to herself. Then came the moment that changed everything. It was late one night. I was in the kitchen cleaning up when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I opened it. It was a picture. Emily sitting alone in a car, makeup smudged, tears streaked down her face. Then another message followed. I made a mistake. I just stared at the screen, heart pounding, hands shaking. She hadn't texted me in months. Now suddenly this. I didn't reply. I couldn't. I just sat there staring at the glow of her message until it dimmed and disappeared. The next few days were strange. No follow-up texts, no calls. Then through a mutual friend I found out the truth. Ethan, the guy she'd left me for, had cheated on her. Apparently he'd been seeing someone else the entire time, lied to her about everything, used her, and when she found out she'd tried to call me. It's poetic in the cruelest way possible. The same pain she gave me, it had finally found her. I wish I could say I felt vindicated, that I smiled, said karma, and moved on, but I didn't. I just felt tired. Because no matter how much she'd hurt me, I didn't want this for her. I didn't want her to feel broken like I did. That's when I realized I didn't hate her anymore. I still missed her, still loved her in some quiet, distant way. But the anger was gone, and in its place was something else. A calm acceptance that maybe love isn't always meant to last, but it's meant to teach. A week later, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, she was there, Emily, eyes red, hair messy, holding a small bag. Her voice cracked when she said, "Can I come in?" When I opened the door that night, the woman standing there barely looked like the wife I remembered. Her hair was a mess, her eyes were red and puffy, and her voice trembled when she said, "Can I come in, Jason?" It wasn't the confident, distant Emily I'd watched walk out months ago. This was someone broken. Someone who'd been living in the wreckage of her own choices. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen. Half of me wanted to slam the door in her face. The other half, the part that still remembered how she used to look at me, wanted to pull her in and hold her until she stopped shaking. In the end, I just stepped aside. "Yeah," I said quietly, "come in." She walked past me slowly, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to. The house smelled like the same vanilla candles she used to light, but they didn't make her smile this time. Her eyes darted around the living room, the couch, the hallway, all the places where us used to exist, and then her gaze landed on the mirror. The mirror with my message still faintly smudged across it. She froze. "You kept it," she whispered. I didn't respond, because honestly I didn't know why I had. She sat on the edge of the couch, rubbing her hands together, eyes glassy and distant. "I don't even know where to start," she said, her voice cracking. I stayed standing, my arms crossed, heart pounding. "Start anywhere," I said. There was a long silence. Then she exhaled shakily and said, "He lied to me." Her voice broke on the last word. "Ethan?" I asked quietly. She nodded. "He wasn't who I thought he was. Everything he told me about his job, his ex, his life, all of it was a lie. He was seeing someone else the whole time." I didn't say a word. She kept talking, words spilling out like she'd been holding them in for months. "I thought he loved me. I thought leaving you would make me happy, that maybe I'd feel alive again, but he just used me, Jason. I was stupid." Her face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I ruined everything for nothing." For the first time in months, I saw her walls completely collapse. There was no pride, no pretense. Just a woman realizing what she'd thrown away. I wanted to feel triumphant, to remind her of all the nights I cried alone, all the mornings I woke up to emptiness. But looking at her like that, all I felt was pity. And somewhere buried under that pity was love, quiet, aching, unwanted love. I sat down across from her. "Why are you here, Emily?" I asked softly. She wiped her face. "Because I didn't know where else to go." "That's not an answer." She looked up, eyes trembling. "Because I miss you," she whispered. Those words hit harder than any confession could. She reached for my hand slowly, like she wasn't sure I'd let her, and said, "I don't deserve your forgiveness, I know that, but I need you to know that what I did, it wasn't because of you. You were always good to me." I just... She swallowed hard. "I thought happiness was something I could find in someone else. I was wrong." Silence filled the room, just her quiet sobs and the ticking of the clock on the wall. And then she said something that broke me in half. "I see now what you meant on that mirror," she said. "You can't cheat your way to happiness. I tried, and all I did was destroy mine." Her words hung in the air, heavy and raw. I wanted to tell her it was okay, that I forgave her. But that would have been a lie, because part of me still couldn't forget the image of her walking out, the messages, the hollow look in her eyes when she said she wasn't happy anymore. You can't erase that kind of pain with an apology. She stayed silent for a long time, then she asked, "Can I stay here tonight?" My first instinct was to say no, to protect myself. But she looked so small sitting there, hands shaking, tears still glistening on her cheeks. I sighed. "You can stay, but just for tonight." Her eyes flickered with relief. "Thank you." She took the guest room, our old guest room, the one she used to complain was too cold, and closed the door softly behind her. I stayed in the living room for a long time, staring at the flickering candle on the table. The house felt alive again, but it wasn't warmth I felt, it was confusion. Because for the first time, I realized forgiveness isn't just about letting someone back in. It's about deciding whether you can live with what they did. Later that night, I heard her crying softly in the other room, and even though every part of me wanted to go comfort her, I stayed where I was. Because love isn't always about running towards someone. Sometimes it's about learning when to stop. When I finally went to bed, I caught a glimpse of that mirror again in the hallway. The words had faded over time, almost invisible now. But under the dim light, I could still make them out. "You can't cheat your way to happiness." And right below that, in faint lipstick smears, I noticed something new, a reply. "I know." The morning light came softly, the way it always does after a long night, gentle, patient, almost forgiving. For the first time in months, I woke up to the faint sound of movement in the kitchen, plates clinking. The low hum of the coffee maker. For a second, half awake, I thought it was just like before, that maybe none of it had happened, that she'd come back from work, kissed me good morning, and we'd joke about the burnt toast again. But when I opened my eyes, reality caught up. She was here, yes, but not mine, not anymore. I walked out quietly, barefoot, still in the shirt I'd fallen asleep in. She was standing by the counter, holding one of my mugs, the blue one she'd given me for our anniversary. Her eyes were swollen, hair still tangled, makeup from last night faintly smudged. When she saw me, she froze for a second, then managed a small, uncertain smile. "Morning," she whispered, "morning." The silence that followed wasn't hostile, just heavy. The kind of silence where both people are thinking too many things they'll never say. She gestured at the coffee pot. "I made some, hope that's okay." I nodded, "Yeah, thanks." She poured me a cup and slid it across the counter like it was some kind of peace offering. We sat across from each other, The same kitchen table where we'd laughed, argued, planned vacations, dreamed about kids we never had. Now it felt like neutral ground between strangers. I didn't sleep much, she said quietly. Yeah, I heard. I'm sorry about that. I nodded again, don't be. She looked down at her hands. You were always kind to me, Jason, even when you had every reason not to be. Kindness isn't weakness, I said softly. She looked up, and for a moment I saw the old Emily again, the one who used to look at me like I was her whole world, her eyes filled with tears. You don't hate me, do you? I thought about it for a long moment, then I said no. I don't. And I meant it because somewhere between the heartbreak and the silence, I'd stopped carrying that poison. Hatred only anchors you to what's already sunk. She started crying then, quiet, broken sobs that came from deep inside. I wish I could take it all back, she whispered. The lies, the leaving, the way I made you feel small, I don't even know who I was then. I wanted to reach across the table and comfort her, the way I used to, but I didn't. Instead, I just said, we both lost ourselves for a while. She nodded, wiping her tears. He made me feel like I was worth something again, but it wasn't real, it was just attention, temporary. You gave me love, and I threw it away for something cheap. I let out a quiet breath. Sometimes we don't realize what love is until it's gone. Her lip trembled. Do you think we could ever? She didn't finish the sentence. And I didn't let her. Emily, I said softly, you'll always be a part of me, but we can't go back. Too much has happened. She looked like she wanted to argue, to beg, but then her shoulders slumped. She understood. We finished our coffee in silence. She stood up slowly, walked to the hallway, and picked up her small bag. When she turned around, her eyes were wet again. Thank you for letting me stay. I nodded. Take care of yourself, okay? She gave a faint smile. You too. Then she hesitated. She reached into her bag and pulled out something small, her wedding ring. She placed it on the table beside my coffee mug. The metal glinted in the morning light. I can't keep this anymore, she said quietly, and then without waiting for me to respond, she walked out the door. The house was silent again, but it didn't feel empty this time, it felt still. I sat there for a while staring at the ring. It looked so small, strange how something so tiny could once mean everything. I picked it up, turned it between my fingers, and for a brief moment I remembered the day I slipped it onto her hand. The way her smile lit up the church, the way I truly believed forever was real, and then slowly I set it down beside my mug and whispered, "Goodbye, Emily." That afternoon I finally wiped the mirror clean. The faint words, both mine and hers, disappeared under the cloth. The glass was spotless, clear, and for the first time in a long time when I looked at my reflection I saw me, not the man she broke, not the husband left behind. Just me, a little older, a little wiser, and finally free. They say closure comes when you stop needing answers. I think they're wrong. Closure comes when you make peace with the fact that sometimes love ends without a villain. Sometimes people just lose their way and you can't save them without losing yourself too. But you can learn, you can grow, you can forgive not for them but for yourself. And maybe that's the quiet miracle no one talks about. That night as I turned off the lights, I caught my reflection one last time in the now clean mirror. Just me, just peace, and I smiled. Because even though she walked out of my life, I finally walked back into my own.